One of the topics which we have over the last few weeks and even months been asked to advise organisations and clients on more frequently is the issue of gender pay reporting. I'm Patrick Brodie, I head the employment team here at RPC, and I'm joined by Thomson, Legal Director, to discuss gender pay reporting.
So I think it's probably worth starting off with just a quick explanation of what gender pay gap reporting is all about, because there's a reasonable amount of confusion in some of the reporting of this new legislation that we'll talk about in a moment. The gender pay gap really at its core is about the difference between what men earn on average compared to what women earn on average. And it varies quite a bit by sector, but if you look at the national average, it sits at around 19%, just over 19%. And what that means, if you look at it in another way, is that for every pound that a man earns, on average a woman will only earn 80 pence, which I think most organisations would agree is not a great place to be, and that we should take steps to try to narrow that gap. The problem is if we just leave it to chance and time, it will take decades at least to try to narrow that gap to any acceptable level. So the government, after lots of cross-party pressure before the last general election, decided that actually that wasn't okay and that it would force organisations of any medium to large size to take affirmative action to try to narrow the gap more quickly, which is fantastic, and the clients and organisations that we've been talking to pretty much embrace that agenda. The problem is that there's quite a bit of confusion about what gender pay gap actually means as compared to equal pay, and that leads to confusion in organisations about what they're actually being expected to do.
And that's been one of the major difficulties which we're faced as advisors supporting organisations who are looking at gender pay reporting, because often that initial conversation is very much looking at gender pay reporting around its very rationale, which is about the progression and promotion of women within an organisation. But as soon as it's confused with the issue of equal pay, there's much more of a negative response by many organisations. So part of our role is to change that conversation which organisations are having internally to genuinely focus on the underlying issue, which is progression, it's promotion. And part of our role as well is to support businesses in defining the story and the narrative which enables them to use this legislation as a tool to support that aim of bringing more women through into more senior positions.
And that's a big reason why it's really important for organisations who are going to be caught by this legislation to really get cracking on that work now, sooner rather than later, because creating that supporting narrative and story that speaks to your organisation's employer brand inevitably takes quite a lot of time.